You're listening to the Bulldog Hour, getting you inside the Wilson football program with weekly game previews, recaps, highlights, and interviews. Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Raffoff.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Bulldog Hour. I'm one of your hosts, Joe Mays, and sitting next to me is my co-host, Justin Raffoff.
Yeah, it's good to be here. We've talked a while. These shows in November, we like to have them. So.
Yeah, we love to have these shows in November because they're not guaranteed. We usually can say we're going to get a good 10, 12 episodes in for sure if we're able to do it weekly, which we were this year, which was great. But anything after that, it's all up in the air.
Right. And after, 7 games last year? I know games don't correspond to the correct number of episodes, but after 7 games last year, to get a lot of games this year was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a blessing in more ways than one. With the pandemic still going on, and we saw many teams shut down because of it.
Yeah.
We're very thankful that didn't impact Wilson directly in any capacity. There were no games missed, no opponents lost, even though we saw that going on around us, around Berks and Lancaster-Lebanon League. Thankfully, that didn't impact the Bulldogs at all, which was a great thing for this season after everything that went down in 2020 with the shortened season and the reduction in the playoff field and all those things. But yes, we're very happy that the 2021 season was not impacted in any way by that for our Wilson team. But sadly, this will be our last show of the 7th season tonight. Wilson, as I'm sure most of you watching know, fell in the District 3 6A championship game to Harrisburg, 14-10, yesterday afternoon at Severance Field. So the 18th episode is our last one for this season, but have no fear. Yes, season 8 will be here. We will be back in a few months' time. Probably we usually like to do kind of a winter recap of what's going on, or a little winter preview, winter update we call it. And that usually is like the end of February, where we'll just kind of go around and see what's happening. We'll be able to probably verify and confirm what the 2022 schedule will be by then. Maybe we can talk about the some of the 2021 awards that'll come out over the next month or so. And, just look ahead to the season, because I know by then the Super Bowl will be over, and, professional and college football will have wrapped up. And, there's a huge following of Wilson football that people are interested even in the months, of February, March, and April before things really get going with spring ball in May.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I'm sure, you will help get the word out in a couple months, and we'll hit the ground running.
Yeah. So, but we're actually not alone here this evening. Last year, Justin and I conducted kind of an exit interview with Wilson Bulldogs head coach Doug Doms, and we messaged him this afternoon to see if he'd be willing to join us again to do so for the 2021 season. And he is here with us, on the Mays Sandwich Shop hotline here for the show. So, Coach Doms, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me, and thanks to you and Justin for doing this. I think it's a great thing for the Wilson community, and something that I think a lot of other places don't realize or benefit from.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that, and Justin and I, it's a labor of love, and we'd never consider it work. It's all fun and games.
No, it's a lot of fun for us, and. Yeah, like...
You mean those 7-figure salaries you're taking down for this show, weren't?
I mean, that's obviously a huge perk. We weren't ready to reveal that information, but now that it's out there, yeah, I mean, we love it. I mean, honestly, I think we also enjoy alternating driving to the away games, because Justin and I just unfiltered talk Wilson football the entire drive. I said if there was a special tier and some kind of like subscriber level, man, that would be an interesting tier to join, that's for sure.
Yeah, and Coach, I'm going to let you talk to Bill Mays over at Mays Sandwich Shop about salaries for us here at the Bulldog Hour. I'll let you handle that one, because I want nothing to do with that conversation.
Well, we'll just give you a 10% raise.
We'll put that in the contract for next year. Season 8, 10% raise across the board.
Yep.
All right, Coach. So Well, first off, congratulations on another successful season. 9-4, 5-0 in the league, another section title. Just absolutely incredible season. And I know many people have echoed the same sentiment. I know you're not on the social media to see the comments and the congratulatory messages. Hopefully, Susie relates those to you. But everyone just wanted to thank you and the staff for the job you did this season. Just a great job once again. Just congratulations from Justin and I for everything you were able to do with this team.
Well, thank you. It was a challenging season, certainly in the beginning. We had everybody seems to forget that we only had a half a season last year. So even the seniors aren't truly seasoned. So, it was a little challenge in the beginning. We had to build some confidence in each other, had to find out, what was going to work for us. And the kids had to build their confidence. And once we got to that point, that was a bit of a struggle, but once we got to that point, their confidence just started to soar, and you saw that happening as we went through the 5 league games, the last 2 very difficult ones, and then through playoffs. Unfortunately, falling to a very, very good Harrisburg team, but, I can't fault the kids. Their effort was tremendous. And, when you're giving away 50 to 100 pounds a man up front and you're playing against a 240-pound tailback, they just basically, fourth quarter, took over the trenches, and unfortunately we couldn't do much about it.
Yeah, let's start there. Let's start with Harrisburg before we look back over at the season at large and all 13 games and the ins and outs of them. The Harrisburg presented, would you say, outside of the Mifflin game, the most challenging opponent you faced this year?
Well, the thing that we knew was going to be a challenge is, number one, they had extreme team speed. Besides the fact that we're very big up front, 315, 285, 295 across the board, their defensive ends were incredibly fast. Their linebackers were fast. Just right across the board. So we knew they were going to present a challenge because if, we thought, I really thought that Williams was going to be the difference maker in the game, number 4, but we ended up controlling him pretty well, and then Hopkins ended up being the guy that hurt us.
Was there any anticipation for Hopkins being the guy? I know you just said you thought it would be Williams. Was it his speed that you thought would be the game changer, not Hopkins' bruising style?
Yeah, I thought that was going to be the case because I thought that, we would be able to handle him up front. But as I said, we handled actually Hopkins early. We handled him. Mm-hmm. But, I think, as I said, once they figured out that they could just go shoot a shoe and take their, 285, 295, 315-pound linemen and go against our 210, 215, 220-pound defensive front, we were throwing everything in the book at them, but, they were just getting those 4 and 5 and 6 yards and, give them credit,
Oh, absolutely. All the credit. They were able to overcome mistakes. Honestly, they faced a bigger adversity caused by themselves with many penalties and turnovers. Unfortunately, they overcame them for us. But it was a very, very even game. You look at the stat sheets, first downs, 14-13 favor Wilson, rushing yards, 144 to 163, passing yards, very similar as well. It was a very well played defensive game. What do you think was the one difference maker in the ball game? If one play, one situation, one player, what was the one thing that sticks out to you?
There's a couple. I think that, we got the turnover there on the 35-yard line in the fourth quarter, and we weren't able to capitalize on it. We went 3 and out. That was huge. If we would have just, gotten somewhere on that drive, it would have been the difference. Then obviously we had that 4th and 2, and the kid made a great tackle on Jaden, made us come up short on that one. And hey, right down to the last, their punt to us. If that kid doesn't grab, Cam's face mask, he might have taken it to the house because he had our whole sideline.
Yeah,
but,
I was talking to Joe about that, and I was saying, because I was reading the stuff, and Cam thought he had a shot, and I saw that you had mentioned he thought he had a shot, and honestly, so did I. But in my head, I've already kind of moved on and convinced myself that he wasn't going to make it, not because I doubt Cam, because we learned that's not what to do on special teams this year with Cam, but just to make it more bearable for me. I've talked myself into the fact that I'm like, I was 90 yards away, but. Yeah.
When I saw it, he made the first guy miss, and he started to our sideline. I thought, he beats that guy.
Yeah.
There wasn't anybody else.
No.
Everything on our sideline was white shirts and red pants, and at the very least, he probably would have got back to the 25, 30-yard line of their side.
Right.
And now we've got 20 seconds left, and now we got a legitimate shot.
Right. Yeah, and that's what I thought. I was like, even if he doesn't take it all the way, he's running it a long way, and it changes what's possible there at the end. Yeah, there are lots of what ifs, but it was. Yeah,
I think the other play that sticks in my mind from a defensive standpoint is when they were down, and I think it was third down, and they had been pounding Hopkins up the middle, and. And we sent our outside linebackers on a blitz, and we just got done telling them that down here, this is where the quarterback likes to pull it and run it. And unfortunately, our linebacker took too tight a line. He pulled it and went right around. And if we'd have made that play, it would have been fourth and 12 or 15 yards. And who knows? We stop them, they don't score. But. What are you going to do? I mean, it's one of those games. I mean, we won several games like that this year, and unfortunately that one we didn't.
Yeah. Especially these last few weeks, things were coming up red and white often. It was great to see, a great ride to go from 2-3 to 9-3 and in the district championship game, which I know many people didn't see that coming. Honestly, most people didn't see that coming, and you saw that throughout the media members in their writings in the the early weeks of the season, and even leading up to the playoffs. Everyone was doubting you and your team. But when the final whistle blew yesterday, and you gathered your squad and your coaches, what did you say to them? What were your final words in that last huddle with them?
Well, I told them that unfortunately, life isn't always fair, and you don't always get what you want. But we as a staff were extremely proud that they could have very easily, rolled over when we were 2-3 and things weren't going our way. But they pulled together as a team. They rallied behind each other, grew as a family, grew in character, and came back and had a really good season. A season that they'll remember for the rest of their life.
Absolutely. So congratulations. We'll finish up with the Harrisburg game. Congratulations to Coach Everett and the Cougars. Best of luck to them going forward. It was a great game between two great teams, and that reflected on the field and on the stat sheet and everything here and there. And I know there's a lot of ifs and buts and a lot of what ifs, but another great district championship game. That Harrisburg came out on top. So let's go back a little bit and move back to the point where this team was sitting at 2-3 after that loss at home to Manheim Central, a game that I'm sure you and the team felt was easily winnable. Instead of coming out of that above 500, you sat below 500, and we've heard all the stories that hadn't happened for I think 2 decades or whatever. What were you saying at that moment after the loss to Manheim Central? What was your message to the team as you entered section play?
Well, basically, I said, we're not where we want to be. I said, but we got to heal physically and emotionally. We got to keep working to get better. I said that, I took some of the blame. I said, I'm not going to be one of your favorite people over the course of the next couple of weeks, because there's not going to be a single thing that you do that I'm not going to be all over you if you are, easing up or making mistakes. I said, I'm going to be. You're not going to like me. I said, but we have. We knew we had a tough preseason schedule. I said we have the whole league in front of us. I said everybody in the league 0-0, so we can still, our third goal is our first goal obviously was to beat Central Dauphin, which we did. Second goal was to beat Mifflin, which we got a little bit embarrassed, but Mifflin's pretty awesome this year. And our third goal, I said, was to win the league. So right now we're 0-0 like everybody else. I said we're getting healthier, we're getting better. Now you just got to believe in yourselves. I said you got to work a little bit harder and believe. And for the next couple of weeks, I was nobody's friend at practice.
Yeah, we got to talk to your players a lot over the last few weeks.
Yeah.
7 weeks in a row, I think we talked to players after the game, which was fabulous. And they brought up a couple times when we'd ask, what was preparation like this week, and they talked about how tough practice was, but none of them were upset about it because you're winning, and that's all that matters. Going into the league play, you got to open at Penn Manor, and I know that was one that everyone was really, really anxious about, because there were some that thought Penn Manor was trending upwards and was having a good season.
Well,
I mean, they had beat Warwick recently. Entering that game at Millersville, what was the main expectation from your squad? What did you want them to focus on as you open section play at Penn Manor?
The big focus there was let's take every play, one play at a time, quit thinking ahead, and focus on each play, because we were making so many mistakes, mental mistakes and unnecessary penalties. And I just said, listen, we're going to eliminate this stuff. We're going to start cutting back. I said, just take everything one play at a time and we'll be fine. All right. And, luckily I think, I played into Penn Manor was trending upwards, but, Jaden was coming back, which was big, off of a very iffy suspension. And, he wanted to rock and roll, and I think that was a little bit of a boost for the team. And we had a little bit of a sit down with our quarterback, because he was trying to do too much, and told him, quit. You don't have to win the game. You have to play the game. And, the rest of the team, as I said, just everybody have everybody's back. Don't think about everybody else. Do your job and take it one play at a time.
When did you feel offensively that rushing identity, that hard-nosed mentality really came together? I mean, we saw some of it with the return of Jaden at Penn Manor, but it just seemed at some point when the biggest games came to the forefront, Hempfield Township in the playoffs, that's when you really had that 1-2 duo in the backfield going. Was that something that came up in discussions with coaches or the players, or is it just kind of organic as the games went on?
Well, we talked a little bit about how I'm not sure. I didn't break it down, but we had a ton of turnovers this year. But I would say probably 80% of them were in the first 5 games. So we talked about, instead of throwing the ball downfield, let's start picking the higher percentage passes and try to force them to stop the run and then take advantage when they do that and hit the higher percentage passes. And as we started to do that and our offensive line started to gel, you got to remember that, we went through several different people up there trying to get them solidified as we started to gel up there. And, Brad started running, really well, and Jaden was pounding it. It just kind of morphed into our offense. I don't know that, we had talked about, shortening the pass game and running the ball a little bit more, but, it just kind of evolved.
Yeah, it evolved in a big way. I want to say, just looking at statistics here, I'm looking at the year to date. It looks like maybe the Cedar Crest game is where it really came together for you on the ground, featuring that rushing attack.
Well, we started, they started ripping off big plays. And when a lot of that, what people don't understand with the offense is, like they say, well, why aren't you running Jaden more, or why is Brad running so much, or vice versa? They have to understand that the crux of our offense is the quarterback reading somebody on the defensive team. So he has the option of giving the ball to Jaden or pulling it, and based on what he reads. And that's tough to do sometimes because you don't always get great blocks or it's not always very definitive. So sometimes it looked like we were stuffed, but for the most part, Brad got pretty good at it. And as long as he made the right read and the offensive line was blocking well, our offense started to click.
Who was the most impressive team that you played this year?
Oh, Governor Mifflin, without a doubt.
Without a doubt. Yeah, I mean,
that's pretty much our take as well.
All right. And who was the most impressive individual player you faced this year?
That's a hard one because I think that obviously, everybody says Nick Singleton, but Nick's a heck of a football player. Don't get me wrong, but I think that the white kid from York was a heck of a tailback, playing, change directions in a heartbeat. And obviously Pribula from Central York was, everything they say he was. So, probably those three would probably be up there.
Okay. And let's talk a little bit about your squad. How about give us someone who you think had a really great year this year, that you weren't sure what you were going to get from entering this year, someone that flew under the radar but came up in a big way for your team?
I think, you got to start there with John Ramsey because, last year he played tight end and linebacker, and this year we moved him to defensive end into offensive guard, which is a pretty big quantum shift. And what probably made it so significant is the fact that he broke his hand on his right hand. Actually, it turned out it was an old break. All right. So they cast it and said because he'll have surgery on that soon. And then he broke some fingers in his left hand. So he's playing with a club on one hand and a half a club on the other, and trying to play offensive line where you use your hands to block or trying to tackle that way, and he ended up having a heck of a season for us. Yeah,
he really did. He really took over, especially as that winning streak went going. He kind of became the face of that offensive line, and you're going to expect that from a senior leadership, and it seemed like he definitely stepped up in a big way. Justin, you have anything from this season you wanted to ask Coach?
No, I feel like we touched on a lot of the things.
Yeah, so. I mean, it was just one heck of a job. I know you told us last year, when you guys were down a bunch of players entering that section opener against Manheim Township, that it was going to take quite a coaching effort to win that game. And, all you did was go to Nessville and win that game. And that was one that everyone pointed to preseason this year about, it's one of their biggest, most favorite moments entering this season. But the job you and your staff were able to do this year was just spectacular. Able to rally the troops midway through and just tell them we're a good team. We've got a lot in front of us, and went out and did it. So absolutely a great job all around there. So how about real quickly before we let you go, let's just talk about a little bit about some of the guys that will be back in 2022. Who are some of the big returning guys that you're excited to see in 2022?
We've got a nice nucleus coming back. I think, on the offensive line, Jack Dendel at the one tackle. He was a sophomore for us this year. He's got to work on his flexibility and his strength, but, he should have a pretty good year for us next year. Brendan Hopp, who ended up getting hurt and didn't play the last 3 games, but, he's got another year to get bigger, stronger, and better. So, pretty solid there. I think that some of our linebacker core. You've got, Ryan McMillan is a sophomore who had a nice season for us. You got Landon Farrell, who's a linebacker, had a really nice season, really came on strong at the end of the year. Secondary-wise, obviously Cam Jones on both sides of the ball and returning is huge. You got Eddie
Case.
Sorry. Yeah. Eddie Case coming back. My dog just was biting my toe. You got Eddie Case coming back on both sides of the ball. I mean, we got a lot of height at the wide receiver spot. So, we need to find, we need to see who's going to step up at running back, who's going to step up at quarterback, and we need to replace some offensive and defensive linemen. But, as I said to the kids, the underclassmen after the Harrisburg game, I said, hey, just remember what this feels like and don't wait till next year. I said, we start on Monday in the weight room, and let's start, carry this with you. I said, I remember in 2007 when, here we go. There was a fumble at the end of the game that they said was not a fumble.
Yes.
Talk about a parallel. They had a fumble. I don't know if you saw the fumble from the end zone, but that fumble on third down was a fumble, and we recovered at midfield that they didn't give us. There's a parallel. I said, and then 2008, we came back, and those kids carried that with them. So, carry this heartbreak with you and use it for motivation.
Yeah, and that's exactly how you need those younger guys to do it. I know there's a lot of high hopes for the group of 10th and 11th graders that just finished their season with you. But yeah, I know that's it's 2022 is a long way off, but I know you guys, your coaching staff will already start preparations. And like you said, the players are already going to be in there for weight training and eventually winter plyometrics and all that fun stuff with an eye on the 2022 season. So,
yeah, you miss those plyos, don't you, Joey?
Oh, yeah, completely. Plyometrics were the best part of the year, for sure. So
necessary evil.
That's right. It's the best way to look at everything. But the end results are always so worth it. So hopefully all the players understand. Put in the work now so that you're feeling great at the time of the close of your senior season. And I think everyone that walked off the field for the last time on Saturday should feel very proud of what they were able to accomplish, not just this year, but in the years they were on the Wilson football team, back-to-back section champions, and one heck of a ride this year. So, Coach, I think that's it for us. We thank you so much for joining us here to wrap up 2021 and give us a little bit of a glimpse at 2022. And I'm sure you now have nothing to do. You just get to relax now. And you just kick up your legs, hang out with your dogs. So,
yeah.
Good luck with the winter track and all the academic ventures. And we'll catch up with you again in the not too distant future to talk more Wilson football.
That sounds good. I'd just like to reiterate one more time, how proud we are of our seniors. They became our leaders and they grew a lot this season, and hopefully the underclassmen learned from their mistakes as well as, their successes, and they're hungry. And that's what it'll take. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Coach Doms.
Coach.
Thank you.
All right. So just a real quick, 20, 25-minute discussion with Coach Doms. We appreciate him taking the time to join us. I know this afternoon, he was at the Lincoln Park banquet. Yeah. He's a very, very busy guy and always in demand. So I was really thankful that he said that, yes, he would join us for a little bit.
I was going to tease him because I just feel like with football still going on, he probably still has to go in and close up his pool. And I know there are many a story of him having to put his full scuba gear on so they can get in the pool and try not to get hypothermia and clean out the leaves and everything. So I'll see him tomorrow, and I'm gonna ask him if he still has to clean out the pool. So
oh boy, fun stuff. Yeah. So we're gonna keep going here. We got a half an hour left, a few things to do, but before we talk a little bit more We do want to thank our sponsors again, Bill Mays, my dad, and Mays Sandwich Shop for everything that they have done for us this year and in all the years to get this show going. You know, we are wrapping up season 7, and we couldn't have done that without my dad and Mays Sandwich Shop, as well as one of our newest sponsors, the latest one, who's now been with us for a while, most of the year, Mike Drago and MikeDragosports.com. Hopefully, many of you got a subscription to his new site because he featured Wilson.
Outstanding job.
Yeah, what a great job he's done in this first, just 3, 4 months of the site.
Yeah,
It debuted in early August, and he hit the ground running. We appreciate his support of us here at the Bulldog Hour. We had him on in August, a couple weeks after the site launched, and we'll have to get him back. He probably would be a good one to have in those winter and spring preview times to talk, because that gives us a little bit of time to pick his brain and talk about the history of Wilson football with him. So we appreciate what he did for us here at the show and what he did for Berks County football and soccer with his coverage by Jason Guarante and his stringers. He was covering 4 or 5 games every Friday, Saturday, every weekend throughout Berks football, and we appreciate his support of the Bulldog Hour as well. In addition to Mays Sandwich Shop and MikeDragosports.com, we want to thank CNS Supply Company, Andy Herr, Marty Palm, and our 3 anonymous donors, all of which I talk with fairly regularly, and they all have wonderful stories and opinions about Wilson football. I always like talking to our supporters, even if they don't want any recognition on air. I do want to make sure that we thank them because we truly appreciate the support. If you would like to support us, there are ways to do that outside of sponsorships, advertising, and the in-kind donations. Please make sure you visit BulldogHour.com. I am slowly making my way through the season-by-season recaps. I most recently completed 1971, and I'm now working on 1964, which is notable just because that is the first season that Coach Gursky was roaming the sidelines at the old Wilson Stadium. So that one hopefully will be done in the next couple of weeks. And last way to help us here at the Bulldog Hour is Justin's favorite.
Yeah, like and share. You can spread the word, and if you see stuff you like, let others know about it.
Unfortunately, no new live show thread to show you. No. It'll be sometime in February. Will be next live show. We usually do it that last Sunday in February. We just kind of go over what's going to happen.
Like you mentioned, have we had a show every week since first week in August?
Close to it. All right.
I know we did the live show from Cedar Crest, which was an adventure.
That was an adventure. I don't want to do that again. I blame Cedar Crest completely for all of those mishaps. That's all on the Falcons. So Lebanon, you're on my list. So
the county.
Everyone there, anyone that's ever been there, like Fernsler, they're all together. It's all lumped together. I think we have. I think we've had a live show every week since early August talking. I mean, we're show 18.
Yeah.
So we only had 2 outside of that.
I guess we could count.
Yeah. So it's 16. We've had 16 since whenever in August. 16 straight shows. Because we did do a winter and a spring update.
Right.
And so here we are. But so I do want to pull up this future schedules here. Now, I made this last year, so you can see on the left side if you're watching the show, 2021 is listed on there, and obviously we're done with that one now. 2022 is there in the middle. We usually, when we do the show after talking with Coach Doms or our recap of the season, we look ahead to 2022. And I can do that insofar as the schedule shown there is complete and guaranteed because that was set by the new LL Berks League. The merger happens for the 2022 season. That is the schedule. So you can see we have 3 games missing the first 3 weeks. Then we start the league schedule in week 4 and 5. And then we have a bye, which will be another non-league game in week 6. That will be Mifflin in there. That'll be a non-league game against Mifflin. So Mifflin is moving to week 6. It will be September 30th next year. The schedule with the non-league opponents is not set yet.
Right. And just real quick, I know people will be like, well, if we have like September 2nd open, which would be Labor Day weekend, why wouldn't we schedule Mifflin then? Because good luck trying to find a non-league game to play on
in
September
week
30th.
6. Yeah. So the way the new LL Berks League is set up, they're trying to encourage without requiring crossover games between sections.
Yeah, the crossovers that they had required were produced some good games, but
They
were
were
not a hit,
assigned by
not a
the
hit
league.
with the teams
Right.
themselves. The teams didn't like being told who they were going to be scheduled for a technically non-league game.
Yeah.
Right.
So Wilson played Manheim Central the last 4 years. That was assigned as a section crossover game, counted in the non-league schedule, but was required by the LL League.
Right.
So Wilson Manheim Central happened for the last 4 years. That's going away with the merger with the Berks League. And Section 1, where Wilson will be and is basically every team that we played this year plus Reading.
Yeah.
Section 2, I'm not going to go into. I mean, we can do this maybe in the winter show, over the new sections. But Mifflin's in Section 2 of the new Berks LL League. Section 1 and Section 2 of the new Berks LL League share the same bye weeks. So it was just natural to take
Which
Mifflin,
was on purpose.
Yeah, which was on purpose. To take Mifflin and put them into that mid-season game. So
Right.
that'll be super weird. I have to go back into the archives to see when's the last time Wilson didn't play Mifflin in week 1, 2, or 10 or 11.
Right.
Because before playoffs, you could play up to 11 games. So Mifflin was usually always the first or second game or the last game. So it's always going to be week 1 or 2 or 10 or 11. I'm sure at some point they were this weird mid game. I think it might have even been like 96 or something like that. I don't know. I'll have to look. But Mifflin will be in the smack dab in the middle, which is just weird. But that's happening. I'm still trying to get information on home and aways. There's some stuff is happening. We got to figure out who those first 3 games are going to be. I believe Central Dauphin will be back on the schedule. Don't know that they'll be the first game. There's talk about doing a match with Martin Luther King again. We've already talked about it on this show. But there's still at least one open date at a minimum. And again, that's something we can probably bring up on our season 8 debut in February or early March, whenever we get around to it. But I just wanted to make it aware. Some of the games are set in stone. We will play at Reading on September 16th. We will host Cedar Crest September 23rd. We will host Hempfield on October 7th. We'll go to Penn Manor on October 14th. So
Sugar Bowl.
Return trip to Millersville. Justin missed the Sugar Bowl this year. We're getting it again.
I can't believe it.
We're hosting McCaskey again, which we got to host them this year. So that's the weirdness. We have to go to Penn Manor 2 years in a row. We're hosting McCaskey 2 years in a row. And we'll finish at Manheim Township October 28th.
Yeah, but I didn't get to go to Penn Manor this year, so I don't mind that.
No, well,
I mind not going, but
I don't like that drive, especially because the traffic is awful.
In my opinion, I feel like that's the worst drive of the games we've played. Now, I say that. You mentioned the possibility of MLK being on there. That would be the worst drive.
Yeah,
but
we might be driving. We might get on the buses for that.
But I don't like that drive. Well, and that drive isn't terrible. It's a bad drive on a Friday afternoon or evening. That's when that's a bad drive.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That might be. Let's just go on the bus.
I mean the Millersville for Penn Manor.
Let's just go on the bus for that one.
Right, well, then how are we going to the Sugar Bowl before and after the game?
We'll take our own. We'll drive the equipment truck. We've done that before.
Literally have done that before. Yes.
So, so we'll have the 2022 schedule for you in February when we come back for the season 8 debut, and we should know all the non-league schedule. Have that all set in stone. We'll talk Berks LL merger. We'll go over the sections. We'll talk about the Wilson schedule. We'll highlight even more of the returning players. Talk about the to-be seniors, the 2022 big names to know, and maybe expectations at some of the positions. Like Coach Tom said, huge shoes to fill at quarterback and running back once again.
Yeah.
So hopefully that will play itself out a little bit. Things will change as the winter and spring progress, and we'll have more information for you about that then. The other thing that we'll get to talk about come that season 8 debut in a few months will be the PIAA classifications will have changed.
Well, and yes, at the risk of sounding like I'm looking to dodge them, maybe Harrisburg will drop to 5A.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things. It goes in cycles.
I know. And I'm just saying, I say that tongue in cheek a little bit, but they are one of the smaller 6A schools.
They were 5A in
that's what I mean.
17?
In that they have been 5A fairly recently, not in the most recent cycle.
The first 2-year cycle of the new
Right.
6 classifications,
Right.
Harrisburg was 5A. That was the Micah Parsons year.
Yeah.
But it's just tough right now because we're upset because Harrisburg has now ended our season directly or indirectly 4 years in a row.
Right, and that's where I was going with that. I've had enough of that. That's okay, but you got to be careful what you wish for because
I know it's all. Well,
I would not have wanted to have to face Mifflin again in the playoffs again this year if they, because they missed it by one
literally one person. Yeah,
like
you're right. Yeah,
careful what I wish for, but it was a direct statement on Harrisburg's not finished our season essentially 4 years in a row.
Like you said, directly or indirectly 4 years in a row.
I've had enough of that.
Yeah. I mean, they're always good games. Like that's the thing. Even 2018,
right?
We spotted them a bunch of points, but then played them pretty even the rest of the way. They're just good. They just have really good players.
I told you this, and I know we've talked about it a little bit, but I didn't realize how much of their success, almost in total, has been under Coach Everett. Yeah. I don't mean that to sound like I'm taking credit away from Coach Everett because obviously he's done great things with the program and really has them rolling. But I didn't realize how much limited success, I guess would be a better way to say it, before Coach Everett. That's what I meant. But man, he has got that going, and he's got a lot of buy-in from the guys. And we mentioned this last week. Freshman quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I believe both of the running backs were juniors.
Williams and Hopkins.
And the one D end that got a lot of press in the mid-Penn stuff this week, I think, is also a junior.
Yes.
And so, and I know there are a bunch of other guys, young guys on the team too. I think so.
Okay. Yeah, I was drawing a blank. I'm like, what was his name?
But yeah,
they have a bunch of quality players. I mean, they're not even done yet. They get to play State College this week.
Who they've beaten already.
Right. I mean, that was a close game for them, 15-13.
It was. And to go back, their only loss is to Mifflin.
Right.
When they played without their quarterback.
Yes.
And they found out they were playing on Wednesday night.
Day to prep.
Right. So that's not. I'm not saying the outcome of the final result's different. I still think Mifflin beats them.
Right.
But
I'm with you.
That's a tough game for anyone, let alone you're down your quarterback and all that stuff. It's just, the present is bright at Harrisburg right now. The future is also bright at Harrisburg. And so if they drop to 5, then I'd be okay with that.
Yeah. So we last week we previewed the game against Harrisburg, but we didn't get to do it completely. We only really talked about the offensive side, and we got a message from a Harrisburg listener who tuned into the show.
Yes.
And I love when people reach out to us. And he was talking up their defense, and I did say, I was like, yeah, we didn't mean to sell them short. We just didn't get to talk about it.
Right.
Well, we went an hour and a half last week.
Right.
Well, we were on a super high after beating Central York,
and
not knowing what was going to happen. So we always appreciate the correspondence, and thank you for contributing statistics and opening a conversation with us. And like we have been saying all week long, we thought it was going to be a good game, close game, and it was 14-10.
Right.
Came down to the wire.
I said to my dad on the ride home, I'm like, man, if you told me Wilson would win the penalty and turnover battle, I would have told you we were in it. And then I immediately was like, well, we were. That's how that goes. So, hey, had a shot and lost to a great team. That Harrisburg team's a great team, and like you said, they're not done yet. So
yeah, for sure. So while we're talking about Harrisburg again, just let's go over a few more statistics and give our player of the game before we wrap things up. Defensively, you heard Coach Doms mention his name, but junior linebacker Landon Farrell led the team with 9 total tackles against the Cougars. He had 6 solo, 6 assists, 1 for a loss, and 1 sack. Up next was one of Wilson's big-time senior players, Gavin Leonard, chipped in.
all over the place. Those two
Yeah.
were all over the place on Saturday.
8.5 tackles, 7 solo, 3 assists for him. Cam Jones showing up in a big way as well. 5 total tackles, 1 for loss. And then TJ Flight, 3 tackles for him from his linebacker spot, and another guy that Wilson is going to miss next year and needs to replace. Wilson's other sack was a team effort. It's not given to a specific player, but the interception off the deflection was by Ryan McMillan, who you heard Coach Doms talk about big things coming in 2022, as he will only be a junior next season after contributing a ton this year. But again, Eddie Case will be back. Nate Capitano is back. Nick Weitzel returns.
Cam Jones.
And Cam Jones, who we already mentioned, will be back. And Logan Kurzweg got in the defensive package this week, and I think we should expect big things from him. He's also was a sophomore this year, will be a junior next year, and I think we could possibly see him as at least two-way contributor, possible two-way starter along the offensive and defensive lines. So we're not going to dive too much into the 2022 preview. We talked a little bit about that with Coach Don, but we will definitely have that ready to roll when we do a Season 8 premiere in February. Offensively speaking, it was a little bit more quiet than Wilson had gotten adjusted to over the last, month plus, but Jaden did get 100 yards on the nose, according to this stat sheet here. He had 21 for 100 and that 16-yard touchdown. That was also his longest run of the day. Brad, 19 carries, 42 net yards for him. Receiving, TJ Flight was the main guy, 3 catches, 43 yards. And we talked a little bit about Cam Jones in the return game. Thought he'd have an opportunity to take one near the end of the game that would have given Wilson the lead late, but a penalty face mask tossed to the ground ended that threat. I think the biggest thing was the way that Mekhi Hopkins was able to run in the second half was the story of the game, because
absolutely.
You heard Coach Tom say that he wasn't doing anything in the first half.
No,
they shut him down.
If you got to him before he got to the line, he was going to push you back to the line and everything. But in the second half, they got him running like, figuratively north-south, right? Like he was running north-south, and he was running angry, and there was one run where he's literally throwing guys off of him, he was running hard. And if he got through the line, look out, because he's now twice the size of some of the guys who are trying to bring him down. And he was a powerful runner. Well, and I mean, we knew he was capable of that. We talked last week, I guess, Hempfield, he had an 88-yard touchdown run. And in my head, as he was running one of his big runs on Saturday, I'm just, I could see that, I'm just thinking makes sense.
He had I believe the biggest play by either team with that 40-yard rush.
Yes.
That set up the one touchdown for Harrisburg.
Yep. So he when they found that and they were able to go to that, and it was tough, like Coach Tom said, they tried to throw whatever they could at him, but between that and their line really stepped up and started making better plays, and so we weren't able to start making contact a yard deep. We're getting contacted maybe a yard or two back. Well, that's the difference, because now you got big, strong kid running at you, and you're making first contact a yard or two back. Well, now he's getting 4, 5, 6. It's just it gets real tough. And then you maybe stop him on one, but then he gets 7 or 8 on the next one. So now it's 3rd and 2 again. And instead of 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, where all right, maybe we've got him, but you get into a 3rd and short situation. Now you got to stop him 2 in a row. That's pretty tough. And then Coach Thomas mentioned it. You sell out to stop it, and they even told the guys, watch. And the quarterback pulled it perfect. I mean, perfectly did it. But that was that.
I mean, it was a great defensive game plan. Again, it held them to no points in the first half.
Right.
It's 3-0 at halftime.
Right.
They had perplex the freshman quarterback, which is what you need to do when there's a
Right.
freshman under center. He was not throwing good balls. He was
Wilson was
frantic
able to
on
get
the
pressure
run.
with 4-ish guys.
Yes, and they kept
which
Williams
is what
in check.
right,
But Hopkins became an issue in the second half.
right, yeah.
And
And at the same time, we, with the exception of our touchdown drive, where we were really able to get Jaden going, with the exception of that, we weren't able to really put things together, and it was there, like we'd get plays, but it was just stringing them together. And again, credit Harrisburg. Like they were making plays.
Their speed was an issue. It was tough
right.
to open
speed
up.
was
the
an
holes.
issue. Just the size was an
Mhm.
issue. Like the holes were tough, and yeah, it gets tough. And they played really well. Well, I said to you, it wasn't like we played terrible.
No.
Like we played fine, but we said going into the game, and I know this is maybe a little people might a little bit be like, well, we beat the 1 seed the week before, yeah, but Harrisburg's better than Central York, and
Yeah.
we knew going into Central York we were going to have to play the best game we played all year if we wanted to win the game, and I feel like we did, and both of us agreed for the game on Saturday we wanted to win
better.
that we were going to have to play better,
Yep.
and I don't know that we played better than we did at Central York. I don't know that we played great distances like less, but I wouldn't say we played better than we did against Central York. It's hard to tell because we played a better team. But
if Harrisburg and Central York would have played in the district championship, I believe Harrisburg would have won that game.
I agree.
And I think they would have won it by more than 4 points.
I think they win by more than 4 points. I think it's a high scoring game.
Right. I think it's a little bit different.
I don't know that Central York stops Harrisburg.
Right.
Like we showed that they couldn't stop the run, and I think if our guys, Coach Thomas was talking about it, and it's a different challenge, but if our guys presented problems for Central York up front on both sides, Harrisburg's definitely going to present problems for them up front on both sides.
Yeah, well, defensively, Mekhi Hopkins, he did all that damage on offense against Wilson. On defense, he had 8.5 tackles. Anthony Day, number 3, where he made a living, 6.5. Kymir Williams had 2 tackles for losses, 4.5 total tackles. He was number 13. Han Black, number 55, 4.5 tackles. Ryan Epps, number 12, 4.5 tackles. Micah Chambers, 4 tackles, number 21. They were all flying all over the place. Their defense is exactly what won them the game. They were able to do enough on offense to get the points needed, but their defense held Wilson in check. And every time Wilson seemed to get a little momentum, or pick up a nice play or get a first down, Harrisburg would blow something up the next time. And just couldn't keep it going.
Yeah.
So, kudos to the Cougars, and best of luck moving forward. So, just to put a bow here on the Wilson season overall, 9-4, very good. It's just a little bit short of getting to that 10-win season, and 10-win would have been that district crown. But to make it to that game, again, you don't like to harp on it, but the resiliency of the team,
right,
sitting at 2-3 to rattle off 7 straight wins and essentially be playoff games, whether that was true or not at the time. Technically it was, because we talked about it after we beat Manheim Township. We lose that game, we don't even make the playoffs.
Yeah, we won 7, what turned out to be 7 must-win games in a row. That's unbelievable. Like, they throw that stat out there all the time in like professional sports, like how many consecutive elimination games teams have won or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you didn't know it at the time, but Wilson won 7 elimination games in a row, because they lose any of them, they were done. The season would have ended. Yeah.
Yep. And we talked about it. We alluded to it at least after the loss to Exeter. I definitely think so now. I wish those teams could have played at the end of the year. I wish Wilson Exeter happened at the end of the year.
Well, so just real quick,
not because I think guaranteeing a win.
No,
I just think it would have been
Wilson
a much
was
better
playing
game.
different, right?
Yeah, much different team.
Right. So
and we beat Manheim Central.
Right.
Not
So
even
so you
close.
look at it. Manheim Central was one of our losses.
I know what you're gonna say. Yeah.
Lost to Exeter. Bad, and we called
in the
that
playoffs.
one.
Yeah.
Governor Mifflin was one of our losses. Hasn't lost yet, and plays Exeter this week. And Harrisburg. So you look at those teams that we lost to: Governor Mifflin, Exeter, Harrisburg, and Manheim Central. Manheim Central lost to Exeter.
All still alive, or we're beaten by a team that is
Exeter
still alive.
or Mifflin will lose this week to one of the other teams.
Right.
And Harrisburg's still going. Like, the teams we've lost to were pretty darn good this year.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of those things that
even Manheim Central, who of that group, I think is clearly the fourth of those teams, played really well. Like, what, 2 losses all season?
Yeah, they lost to Warwick and then Exeter in the playoffs. So, yeah, they were like 10-2 or something like that. And I still think we were better. I think if we played them at the end, we would have beaten them. It just boggles my mind. No, I don't even want to get into it.
Yeah, that gets you all fired up.
Yeah, that one gets me all fired up. But that is one thing I wanted to ask Coach Doms, and I regret not asking him, but maybe it's better because we don't know the 2022 schedule yet. And when we do, maybe we can have him back on or we record something and play it. Does he want to keep stacking that front schedule, those non-league games?
Because that's been a topic for years.
It's one of those, yeah, we want to be battle tested, but we also want to be healthy. Also, we need to know what teams are going to play us, because that's one of the other issues is teams don't want to play.
It's not as simple
Wilson.
as that. Right.
Like, we've gone through it. Thanks, but no thanks is the answer more often than not.
Right.
So that's why Central Dauphin, 99% sure they're going to be back on the schedule.
Because I would imagine Central Dauphin has a similar issue.
Right.
You know, like teams, they would probably get a lot of thanks, but no thanks as well.
There's only 2 spots left if you count Mifflin and Central Dauphin as definite 6 section games with the addition of Reading. Add Mifflin, add Central Dauphin, 2 to go. Rumors are that Martin Luther King will be back on the schedule, not guaranteed yet. And I know that game wasn't very competitive this year, but just a few years ago they won that Philly publicly.
And we talked about how the way they align their sections
it's
or
like
divisions
European
or whatever
soccer.
you want to call. Like, yeah, they base it off of previous performance. So like you really, things can change a lot from one year to the next in those schools.
Yeah, they'll be
to begin with, let alone based on
Yeah.
schedule and everything.
There's like 4 different levels in the Philly Public League, and if you win a level, you go to the next level. If you win that level, you go to Martin Luther King was up at the highest level of the Philly Public League. Now, I'm assuming they'll drop down because I think they were winless this year. So I think they'll drop down a classification. I don't know the ins and outs of the Philly Public League. That's just what I had seen.
And what does the COVID year throw into effect there? Because they didn't even play really.
Is it a 2-year thing? Is it just every year do they change? I don't know. But yeah, Martin Luther King was down this year, but they can be up real quick.
Yeah.
So I don't know what we'll get out of Martin Luther King if they are on the schedule for the next 2-year cycle, but that's a possibility. You still have that other one out there. Who do you get? You know it has to be a 5 or a 6A team. Because of the power ratings, you don't want to dip down into the 4A. And would any 4A team be willing to play? So there's got to be a reciprocity there, and I don't know where we're going to get it. I'm always looking. I already talked to Drew Kaufman that State College is open for a week 1 game. I think it was it Gettysburg?
I was gonna say we'll throw State College in there with the we'd be front loading the non-league schedule again.
Right, that's what I mean. Like yeah. So it's crazy to think about the future schedules, but that when that is finalized, it'd be interesting to say, was this we're going to take whoever will play us, or did you say no to some people because you don't think they're good enough or because they're too good? Like, what goes into creating that schedule, and do you want to keep having those juggernauts in the first 5 weeks? Just look at the way that this year went. This team could have easily been 9-1 against other. Like, do you want to play these teams just to build up your record, or do you want to play these teams to get better? Like, that's what it comes down to.
But then you look at it, and I know, again, it was thrown off a little bit because of COVID and some lost games, but we needed the strength of Mifflin and Exeter and Manheim Central to help us.
And Central Dauphin. Like, that was a tough game. We won, so people don't think about it because we won that to start the year.
But, that really helped us.
In the long run.
In the long run, yeah.
But then you talk about, like Coach Dobbs mentioned, like, starting the section play was getting healthy. Well, those first 5 weeks beat the team up.
We talked about, what was it, at one point in the Exeter game, we were down 8 starters.
Right. Yeah. Because some were playing two ways,
including your starting quarterback and your starting running
no
back.
No Goose Leonard, no Josh Drake, no Brad
Yeah.
Hoffman.
So at the time, down our top 2 running backs.
Yeah. Well,
and our quarterback.
Jack Dendel dressed that game, but didn't
Right.
play until much later.
Right.
Alex
Again,
Worley was
not
out.
saying that that the result ends up different, like in terms of the ultimate win-loss, but like the game plays out different.
Right.
But yeah, like that was the result of playing Mifflin and Exeter back to back.
Yep. All right. So the last thing was I just wanted to point out some milestones. You know, we talked last week about how Jaden Jones and Brad Hoffman were the first duo to rush for 1,000 yards in the same season. Brad was the first quarterback at Wilson to rush for 1,000 yards in a season, and they both were on the season rushing list, the single season rushing in the program history. So Jaden finished with 1,364 rushing yards this year, which puts him at 13th on the Wilson one-season rushing record. So congratulations to Jaden for getting to that mark. And Brad Hoffman finished the year with 1,080 rushing yards, and that puts him at 21st on the one-season rushing list at Wilson. So congratulations to those guys for working their way up the list, especially with most of that coming in the final 7 weeks of the year. I would have loved to have seen what Jaden could do on a full year with those 2 other games thrown in there. You know, you're talking about probably maybe another 100 yards or more per game that he could have worked his way up into quite possibly the top 10.
Yeah.
With that, with those extra 2 games. But great year from that duo and what the offensive line was able to do when they got that rushing identity. And they came up a little short as a team of setting the record. I think for the season, they ended up rushing for 3,176 yards over those 13 games. The record was 3,308. So they were at 132 yards short of tying that record. I knew they would have needed a huge performance against Harrisburg. If they rushed for over 300 yards against Harrisburg, you got to think they were going to win that game.
Yeah.
But they did not get there, unfortunately. But really great year all around. So it'll be interesting to see when the stats book comes out, where a bunch of these guys land, because a few of them on defense will probably be able to get into the Century Club because of tackles. There might be some people joining because of touchdowns. So it's another great year for the Wilson football team.
Yep.
All right. Well, I think that about does it for us here at the Bulldog Hour for our Season 7 and the 2021 Wilson football season. So I'm getting messages here at the last second. I don't know who this is from, but they want to know about playing Exeter next year's non-league. I don't know if that's on the table or not. It's something I'll have to talk to Coach Doms or Athletic Director Drew Kaufman about, if that's been floated. I know there is at least one open spot on the schedule at the moment. We will see. I'm sure the Wilson players would look at it as some form of a revenge game. Hopefully that one would be at Gursky. We got robbed of Exeter Wilson at Gursky because of the COVID year that was supposed to happen in 2020. Didn't get that. So we'll see. And the person also says, great show. Well, thank you. We appreciate that.
Yeah, we'll take it.
Yeah, we'll take that. We like that. Unfortunately, it's the last show, and that always disappoints me. I hate when the Wilson football season ends, and I really enjoy doing this show. If you like to listen to Justin and I talk about sports, we talk about college and professional football on the other show we do on Sunday evenings in the same time slot as the Bulldog Hour. That is our original podcast, the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show, which is all about mostly about NFL football, but we'll talk a few other things in the off season. You know, we'll talk college sports. We talk sometimes we talk wrestling, college wrestling.
We do.
We dabble in the NBA and the NHL and baseball when that comes around, but football is our number one passion. So that's usually what we end up talking about, even in the off season, free agency, draft. We start our previews in like May, so you know. That's because something else takes over once August rolls around, and that would be this show. But All right. Well, thank you again to all of our sponsors. Thank you to everyone out there in the Bulldog community. We appreciate your support. We love that people have tuned in. This is probably our best year ever, and we will hopefully get even bigger and better next year. And like I said multiple times, we'll be back for season 8 in February to talk about Wilson football. But I think that does it for us this time. Justin, you have anything to say before we go?
No, it's just Coach Tom's kind of said it too. The way the seniors and the players rallied, and when they could have packed it in, they did not, and they really played really well down the stretch, and nothing to hang their heads about. They should be really proud of what they showed and the resiliency they showed. I know they talk a lot about how you learn a lot of life lessons going through the Wilson football program, and so there are lots of life lessons this year.
Yeah, for sure.
People were doubting. When it got hard, you could have quit. When you got hurt, you could have quit. You could have not literally quit, but just kind of packed it in, and they did the opposite, and they rallied and they fought with everything they had and marked off a lot of success and wrote a great story along the way. Yeah,
you said it. Battled through adversity, and that was the biggest thing all year. The resiliency, the never give up, the attitude that this team developed, which was just outstanding. I mean, real gritty work from them. I mean, it's tough to run the ball. That's not an easy thing to do. Physically, it takes a toll on your body,
especially when the other team knows you're going to run it.
Yeah, that's the thing. When they got to, I feel like it really kicked in at Hempfield. It really, when they drove to win the game at Hempfield without throwing a pass.
Right.
From then on out,
3-minute drive.
From then on out, it just felt like. Right? I mean, I know we talked about it with Coach Doms at Cedar Crest.
And Township was a little crazy because it was pouring.
It was awful. They have 330 plus yards in that game.
Right.
On the ground.
But we're going to run it, and you can't stop us.
Yeah. Hey. What a great attitude to have. Hopefully next year's team can live up to that mantle, because there's a lot of big shoes to fill. But that's for future Joey and Justin to talk about. Yeah. Current Joey and Justin is done with season 7. But one last time, congratulations to the players. Good luck to the seniors that have played their final down with the Wilson football team. And great job by Coach Doms, Jeremy Palm, Ernie Wolber, and all of the coaches. At times it's a thankless job, and you don't always hear the positives, and I know a lot like to focus on the negatives because you just want to keep getting better. But no, the vast majority are overwhelmingly positive and appreciate everything that the staff puts in during and outside of the season. We appreciate all of them taking the time to not produce winners on the field, but winners off the field as well.
Absolutely.
All right. So for Justin Raffoff, I'm Joe Mays. This was the 7th season of the Bulldog Hour. We'll see you again in about 3 months for our first look at the 2022 season. But until then, remember, go Bulldogs.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Bulldog Hour. Want more Wilson football? Follow the show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud, or visit www.bulldoghour.com. The Bulldog Hour is a featured program on jmnjrradio.com.